I'm fine, and you?
I like your haircut. I'm Sean. Is the proper pronouncement of your name, is it Seneca?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Seneca, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Well, you finally got me on the phone. I know I've probably been spamming the shit out of you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I saw your ad earlier. I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw it, and I thought this would be something that interesting that I should have looked into because right now, um, yeah, I have a little small company. We doing remodeling, new construction and stuff like that. But why not try to broaden our horizon? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. So I usually ask a couple of questions at the front of this thing. They're not qualifying questions, and really I should probably make the statement that these conversations are just conversations between two guys in the construction industry. There is no
Right.
PowerPoint at the end of this discussion. There's not going to be if you buy now.
Right.
There's no sales pitch. There's just two guys having a conversation about construction, and. And one of the questions I ask is what have you seen other than the ad, and also did you see the whole ad or just part of it?
Well, actually, I watched the video of you showing like the guys that got the funding and how much they got and stuff of that matter. You know what I mean? That's all I basically saw. When I went on to read it and I saw that it was a chance for me to have a meeting with you, I pretty much was like, you know what? Because that's how I am. I like to talk to
Let me
people.
just talk to the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could get the information and I can totally understand it. You know what I mean? And
Okay,
like you
and then
said,
Seneca, the next question I have is how long do you have for this conversation?
I got as long as whatever it takes to get the information. You know what I mean?
Okay. So let me say also at the beginning of this thing that you're going to see some neat things in the next 30 minutes. Okay. And and this conversation is really more about you determining if I'm full of shit or not.
Okay.
That's really the purpose of this conversation. And the reason I say that is contractors have really good bullshit meters
Yes.
because there's people constantly trying to take advantage of us.
Right.
Okay? And so I know that, you know that, and so this conversation is really about you trying to determine if I'm full of shit or not, and if I'm not, if you determine that I'm not, if I'm even the guy that you want to go on this path with.
Right.
Okay? So let's start with the story as to how you and I ended up on this phone call. And let me mute this notification over here because it's interrupting me. Hold on. Mute for an hour. Okay, we got that muted. First of all, like many of us in the construction industry, and I'm sure you're similar, when I was 15 years old, my dad was a federal contractor working all over the United States. And he was on a federal contract somewhere, and my mom called him on one of those old 1986 brick phone calls that had an on-off switch on the back and said that your son is back-talking me. And my dad said, put him on an airplane to Palm Springs, California. I was 15 years old. I ended up in Palm Springs, California about 3 hours later. Then I was driven over to 29 Palms Marine Corps Base, and within 6 hours of back-talking my mom, I was in an attic insulating ductwork in essentially hell on earth. It was 130 degrees outside.
Whoa.
So that was my introduction to the construction industry. I'm now 50 years old, have not back-talked to my mom since. And so that was how I got started. Then I went to high school, went to college, and eventually started out as a superintendent in the construction industry and traveled from coast to coast only doing federal government contracts because that's the business that my dad was in. And I've done everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. At this point in my career, I've done over 1,000 federal contracts that generated $1 billion in revenue, along with my dad. I came up in the business really in the 90s, and going into the 2000s, you know, when you start in the construction industry, you don't know shit, and people treat you that way. But eventually you start figuring things out, and I certainly did figure things out. And by the time 1999 rolled around, I essentially had a seat at the table. And my dad and I would sit in the afternoon, bid jobs, go after work, and between we had a small 6-person team, and we were doing about $20 to $40 million worth of work a year.
Wow.
In 2005, my brother was in a boating accident. It happened on a Saturday night, August 5th, 2005, about 10 p.m. And he was star-flighted in a helicopter to our local trauma hospital here in Austin, Texas. It was called Brackenridge Hospital. I didn't know about it until 2 o'clock in the morning when I got a phone call from my dad, who, of course, was in New York on a federal contract. And he said, "Sean, your brother is about to have brain surgery. I need you to go pick up your mom and take her to the hospital. I don't know if he's going to live or die." So my only question to that was, does mom know? And he said, "Not yet." And I said, "Okay." So drove over, picked up my mom, went to the hospital, and then we had a massive family trauma there. And my dad, later in the day, was able to fly back to Austin. We essentially, or I should say we, but my dad was busy dealing with the trauma of his son being severely brain injured. He had a golf ball-sized portion of his brain removed. And I started closing down the jobs that we had open so that he could focus on Ryan, my brother. When you do $1 billion worth of work, you have millions of dollars, and we had millions of dollars, and we have millions. I mean, we're not financially in a situation where we need people's money, and never have been. But in 2005, my dad started investing $200,000 a month, bringing in experts from all over the world, Russia, China, Australia, many places in the United States, and building a brain rehab center in my brother's home to get my brother recovered. He basically said, "I want my son back the way he was the day before the accident." So we did that for 5 years. Well, 5 years after 2005 is the last recession. Remember the recession in 2009? Our local newspaper, the Austin American-Statesman, wrote an article that said the construction industry had gone to shit. And my dad took exception to that. He wrote the author of the article and he said, "Hey, maybe the commercial and residential industry's gone to shit, but in the federal market, Obama just issued the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act and put $150 billion with a B into the federal market." And she said, "Would you write an article about that?" So he did. He wrote an article about the opportunity in the federal government construction market. And he titled it, I don't know if you remember that movie, Show Me the Money. He titled the article, Show Me the Money. And that article was picked up by a national magazine called Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. So that article got published all across the country, and there was a guy up in Dallas who had a group of 110 roofing and restoration contractors, and he contacted us through that magazine and said, "Would you guys be willing to come to Dallas and give a 1-hour speech in front of our roofing and restoration contractors?" Sure, no problem. So we go up there and we give this speech. And then I don't know what your relationship is with your dad or people in your world, but every once in a while somebody does something that's out of their character, like you weren't expecting them to do that. At the end of that speech, my dad did that. He said, I'll take 10 companies, 2 people per company, for $10,000 apiece, and I'll take them into a room for 3 days, and I'll teach them everything that they need to know to be successful in the federal market. And I was sitting there watching him say that, and I went, what? When we got off stage, remember there was 110 roofing and restoration contractors in the room, and he had just said, I'll take 20. We got bum rushed at the stage. I mean, people were pulling out their credit cards going like this, you know, and I took my iPhone 3 and started filming it because I couldn't believe what was happening. We start swiping credit cards to the tune of $100,000 in 15 minutes for a workshop that did not exist. So we're driving back from Dallas, and I'm going, what the hell just happened there? He's laughing, and he goes, we're a couple of smart guys. We'll figure out how to teach people how to do what we have always done. Okay, that was the genesis of government construction experts. In other words, it happened naturally. It wasn't that we just woke up one day and said, we're the government construction experts. We're real guys that were going out there and doing construction for our government all over the place for decades. Okay? Then we go back up to Dallas 3 weeks later and we teach these guys how to get contracts. Well, guess what happens when they leave the workshop?
They get contracts.
Now, if you're a client of mine, do I know the name of your company?
You should, yes.
I should, yes. So I started creating a page collecting their information over the years. So as an example, this is Dennis of AMG. And if you look at his shirt, it says AMG. Well, he's gotten $4 million in contracts. But that's just me telling you that, right? And I could be full of shit, right?
Right.
So when you click this button, it takes you to a government website. This isn't my website. This is usaspending.gov. That's a government website. They're the watchdogs. They're the people that are saying, hey, who got public money for federal contracts? Okay? Here it is, AMG Construction. Now, notice my picture said 4.1 million in contracts. So what does this mean that this says 4.2 million in contracts?
That you're almost about accurate of what they earned.
Nope. What it means is, since I took the picture of this page, he's gotten more contracts.
Okay.
Do you see how that makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. So he's gotten $100,000 more in contracts since I took this picture and placed it on my website. Okay? Now, the other thing that's cool is it tells you when he got his contracts. If you compare the date of the video where he's saying, oh my God, you guys are awesome. If you compare that date to the date that he started getting federal contracts, it matches. Okay? But it's not just him. Here's Andy of NBT. Here's the contracts he got. If you click that button, where's it going to take you?
To the government website.
That's right. Here's Lanterra. Here's the 34 million he got. Here's his link. Here's Moises of ELCI. You can see the ELCI on his shirt. Here's his 50 million in contracts. Here's the button. Okay? I call this my indisputable proof page. Do you understand why I say it's indisputable?
No.
Indisputable means you can't argue with me. You can't call me a liar. Here's the guy saying, oh my God, these guys are awesome. And then here he's got 1.6 million. Now, in this video, he says, I started a year ago. He says that. If you play that video, But when you go to the usaspending.gov, when do you think he started getting federal contracts? A year ago. Okay? Now, I call that my indisputable proof page. In other words, you go through my training, you start getting federal contracts. That's the deal. Okay?
Okay.
Now, let's talk about how things that I do to teach people like you to get federal contracts. Our federal government has a rule book, and that rule book is called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. It's a big, thick book with a lot of legal laws in it, but it's how our government does business with contractors. It's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations, but when we talk about it among ourselves, we call it the FARs. Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FARs. Okay? Now, the FARs is a big book, but I'm going to talk to you about one FAR. FAR 13.004A. Do you have the ability to Google something and still keep us talking? Like, is there another device or something? A computer?
One second. I just gotta wait for it to turn on.
Seneca, we have as much time as we need. While you're doing that, I want to tell you that I am an evidence-based business, okay? I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to be able to look shit up and make sense of it in your mind. Sorry, I went and saw my grandmother for lunch today, and they require a sticker on your shirt to do that. But I'm an evidence-based business, and I want you to be able to compare what I'm saying to you to things in the real world that aren't me, real sources. Again, this is so that I can pass your bullshit meter, okay?
Okay, what do you need me to look up?
I want you to Google FAR, F-A-R, 13.004A. I want you to just Google that.
Come on.
We're not in a race. We have plenty of time.
Okay, I got it.
Okay? Click on that link. It should take you to acquisition.gov, which is a government website. Do you agree that that's a government website? That's not GCExperts website?
No, it's acquisitions.gov. I'm looking right at it. I just clicked on it.
All right. Now, the title of this FAR is what?
Legal effect of quotations.
Okay. Now, let's just stop right there. Look at me. We're talking about the Federal Acquisition Regulations, which is the rule book for how our government buys construction goods and services, and that rule book applies to all the agencies of the government, whether it's the National Park Service, the National Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the IRS, the CIA, the FBI, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Air Force, the Environmental Protection Agency, all these agencies, they all operate under one rule book, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, and you and I are just looking at one Federal Acquisition Regulation, and it's called the legal effect of a quotation. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. In the real world, not federal, just you and me talking here, if I take a quote and you say, Sean, give me a quote to build a 200 square foot tiny house, and I take that quote and I hand it to you, is there any law associated with that quote?
No.
No, there's no laws associated. I can give you a quote to go down the street and clean my car or something. There's no legal effect to that. But on the federal side, we're looking at something that says the legal effect of a quotation. So now we know we're talking about a law, right?
Right.
Okay. Just stay with me. Even if you start to overthink me and you start to put together in your head what I'm teaching you, just stay with me step by step, okay? The legal effect of a quotation. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to read the first sentence and stop.
Quotation is not an offer and consequently cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract.
So stop right there. In the real world, you and me talking here as business people, if I sign a quote for $100,000 to build a 200 square foot tiny house and I give it to you and you sign it, what do we now have?
We got a binding contract.
We got a binding contract. But in the federal world, the very first sentence says that a quote is not an offer and cannot be turned into a contract. So what I'm trying to establish is that it's different. The federal government deals with quotes different than how, because if I send you a quote, you can turn it into a contract. So it's different, okay? Now, read the second sentence to me out loud.
Therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to a supplier's quotation does not establish a contract.
Does not establish a contract. So now, look, we're reading a law here, and laws are written in legalese. It's not for you and me to understand what it says, but I'm going to break it down to you as to what it really means. What that second sentence means is that our government knows that they have government people that don't necessarily understand all the laws. And that someday, some contracting officer, even though it says right there, a quote is not an offer and cannot be turned into a contract, they might take a quote and turn it into a contract. They might make a mistake. What our law is saying there is that if they do that, what that second sentence is, if they do take a quote and turn it into a contract, it's null and void. Isn't that what that says now that I've explained that to you?
Yes, it does not establish a contract. Right.
Does not establish a contract. So now what I want you to do is read the rest of that paragraph out loud.
The order is an offer by the government to the supplier to buy certain supplies or service upon specified terms and conditions. A contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer.
Okay, now again, that's legalese, and I don't expect you to understand that, but I'm going to explain it to you. In other words, it's the legal effect of a quotation. That was the title. And so the first thing they're telling you is that you can't take a quote and turn it into a contract, but then what they're doing is establishing, well, how do we take a quote and turn it into a contract? Okay? So I know this is going to sound weird, but this is how it happens in real life. The government puts out a contract for bid to build a 200 square foot tiny house, and me, the contractor, I sign a bid and I turn it into the government. they cannot turn that into a contract. It goes on to say it's an offer from the government to me. So they have to take my bid and offer it back to me. That's what that's saying.
Oh,
When they offer it back to me, I have 4 options. 4. Number 1, I can accept. Number 2, I can withdraw. Number 3, I can negotiate. And number 4, I can stall for more time. Now, when I give the government a bid, and they know that they have to offer it back to me, of these 4 options, what do you think they're trying to get me to do?
accept.
You're exactly right. They want, because they've got, how much work does the federal government have to do? A lot, right? So they're trying to get guys to accept the work and get it done.
Right.
But when they call me, I do not accept. When they call me, I actually stall. What I say is, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? Perfectly reasonable thing to say, and it gets me off the phone with them, which is what I want. I want to get off the phone with them. Now, I just turned a bid in for $100,000 to build a 200 square foot tiny house. But I don't know how much that tiny house is actually going to cost. And actually, I don't care, because can they take my bid and turn it into a contract?
No.
No. So I'm at no risk. So I get off the phone with them and I call somebody like you. And I say, hey, Seneca, my name is Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. But I'm calling you today because I looked on Google Maps and you're a construction guy, and it looks like about 30 minutes from your office, the government needs a 200 square foot tiny house built. What I want to do is send you the plans and specifications, and when you get them, just pick up the phone and call me. I'm already familiar with the job. Now understand that in your business, in the real world, you get phone calls all the time, and the phone calls sound a lot like this. Hey Seneca, give me a bid. Hey Seneca, give me a bid. Hey Seneca, I got this other work over here, give me a bid. I mean, isn't that the phone call you take most often?
Yes.
Okay? I know that. But when I called you as a federal contractor about this 200 square foot tiny house, did I say, hey Seneca, give me a bid?
No.
I didn't, because I want to sound different and I want to sound easy. Did I sound easy to you?
Pretty much, yes.
Because I said, hey, I'm going to send you over the plans and specs, but don't even look at them. Just pick up the phone and call me. I'm already familiar with the job. Because
Right.
I want to be the easiest guy you talk to. So then we talk about the job, and I say, hey, Seneca, I'm not asking you to bid every 2x4 and every shingle. What I'm asking you is, based on what we just looked at, just off the cuff, give me a number that if I called you up 90 days from today and said, hey man, we got the job, that you and I would be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us. So what I've really done is I put it in your head that you can give me a number and I'm not going to hold you to it. Isn't
Right.
that nice? Who does that to you?
No, nobody. Every time
Nobody does that to you. But I'm calling you and I'm saying shit like that, okay? So now, in this hypothetical situation, give me a hypothetical number to build this 200 square foot tiny house? Give me a number.
75 grand.
Okay, so I turned my bid in for 100. The guy that actually knows how to do this shit is telling me 75. I might just call the government up and accept. Okay, give me another hypothetical number. Really high or really low?
You say a 200 square foot?
Tiny house.
Yeah. Yeah, so about 55
Okay.
grand.
So I turned my bid in for 100. The guy that knows how to do this shit's telling me 55. I call the government and I accept. Give me another hypothetical number.
88.
What's that?
88 grand.
88,000? Instead of 80, okay, so 88,000. What I might do is enter into negotiations. I might call the government and say, hey, suppose I need to change my bid to 125,000. What would happen then? So I'm negotiating with them. Now give me another number.
100 grand.
Okay? Well, let's say 200 grand.
Yeah.
Okay?
200 grand.
I turned my bid in for 100 grand. The guy's telling me it'll cost 200,000 to do it. I call the government up and I withdraw. I'm sorry, we're too busy to work right now. Not interested. Good luck getting your tiny house built. There's no consequences to that. It's already built in to the legal effect of a quotation. So I ask you, Seneca, in my business, when I turn bids in, am I at any risk at all for that bid?
No.
If they try to turn it into a contract, it's null and void. They have to offer it back to me. Look, I don't know how much that tiny house is going to cost to do. I just turned a bid in for 100 grand. Don't give a fuck what they do with it. But if I get that phone call, I've got these options. And if one of my options is that I can withdraw every bid that I ever turned in, am I ever at any risk?
No.
What you have just experienced is about 10 or 15 minutes of over 27 hours of training, and it's all like that. We've been teaching contractors how to maneuver and profit in the federal market for over a decade.
Okay. So, how does a person or myself get started with something like this? And is it like a certain criteria or whatever the case may be, far as like your employee?
I have done hundreds of millions of dollars of federal contracts. I have never had a license of any kind other than a driver's license.
Oh. So they don't do no background checks, none of that stuff? No? Wow. So, like, they don't, like, do they check the, like, do you have to have a certain type of insurance with your, well, I got general contractor insurance.
That's
but I'm
right.
just saying.
It's general and liability 1 and 2, just like what you already have.
Right.
I know
Okay.
all this sounds too good to be true. I know it does. That's my biggest problem. My biggest problem is that people look at me and go, "It sounds too good to be true. But better pass that up. Boy, that guy's going to scam me out of $5,000."
Right. So, okay, and I know I'm based out of Illinois. So, would I have to travel, or is this like an online training or something like that?
The training is online. Stay with me for a second. Here's what it looks like, okay? I have a special page. You can't find it on the internet, but I have an investment page. You come down here and you invest $5,000 with me. Okay? When
Okay.
you do that, it switches over automatically to this page. This is the training. Day 1, it's a 3-day training event, but you can play it over a week. Day 1 is 10 hours. Day 2 is 11 hours. Day 3 is 7 hours. And this is just kind of like an update video that I put in there. But it's 3 days worth of training. And I'm going to play some of it for you. So here you go. You're going to watch some of the workshop. This is day 1 right here.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on? Or anything else I should know? Okay, problems like that usually have a budget associated with it. Can you share that with me? You understand how?
And
we
then
go
here's
from
some
the
of
need,
day 2 of the
fully
workshop.
understanding the need, and then
Right? How many times the contracting officer asks you, give me a price? So look, I'm a stealth little son of a bitch, okay? The moment that the inspector goes over and says, hey, you should ask, the contractor said ask him to give you a price. The moment she hit send in the email, so she wrote an email that said, hey Seth, give us a price. The moment she hit send, Seth achieved something. It's my favorite word in federal construction. What did he achieve? My favorite word in federal construction. No, that's how you make money in federal construction. What's my favorite word in federal construction? Entitlement. Because once you're entitled to something, what's the only other question? How much?
And then
I
here's
love
some of day 3 of the
entitlements
workshop.
to pay me,
Do you
motherfucker.
remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule? Anybody?
Tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his money. He went and asked for it to fix his fish hatchery. It's sitting on her desk. He needs it done. It's not going to get done until she finds a contractor she can award it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So suddenly somebody turns in a bid for $1 million. And it's only $100,000 worth of work, and they got all this money left over in the budget, and it's real easy to just, man, if we can just push that money out the door, woohoo, we spent all our money, right? Without regard to the value our government's getting, okay? She might just do that. And in fact, a lot of that shit happened way back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, because they didn't have that rule. And then somebody talked about, holy shit, the government paid $600 for a hammer or $2,000 for a toilet seat or some stupid thing like that. Well, what's going on with the government spending? That's why our taxes are so high. We got to stop that. And so they came up with, well, holy shit. They spent all that money because they only had one bidder and they wanted to get it done? We got to
So
stop.
what do you think?
Okay, so after the training, okay, you guys train how to get the contracts. So is it like a special type of website or certification that you got to have to actually get these government contracts?
I have done hundreds of millions of dollars of federal contracts. I have never had any license, certification, or anything other than a driver's license.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, like right now, I'm a contractor. So, is it like I don't run across like government jobs right now. Like I do like little homeowner jobs, and every now and then I might get subbed out to do like for big companies or whatever. But that's what I'm saying. How do you even get in that realm to get.
You have to be registered. Your company has to be registered with the government. It's called sam.gov, and we take care of that for you for $700.
So that's added on to the 5,000.
It is. It's a separate service that my look. When we started GCExperts and we got those 10 guys in the room, they didn't have a SAM registration. I looked at my wife and I said, "You need to become the world's greatest expert at getting companies registered with the government, because we're going to be bringing people into this realm." And she said, "Got it." She has been doing it for over a decade. It takes about 2 weeks, and she charges $700 for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So is it like is it some type of information I need to take down?
Really, this conversation is just for you to determine two things. Do I even want to go into the federal market? And this crazy idiot on the other side of the screen, do I trust him?
Oh no, I have partners that I would like to discuss this with, and I told them about it earlier that I was gonna get on the Zoom. So I just want to run it by them and let them know, because I'm gun ho. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we trying to brighten our, do more work and get sufficient for work, because as you can know, in the construction industry, it's a lot of downtime, and pretty much that's why I started my own company, because I was a union carpenter for 10 years, and I used to be laid off, and I'm like, you know what? If I could just get big jobs and do big jobs, so the layoffs wouldn't hurt as much. You understand what I mean? Because I'm making more money instead of just being on a salary. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I chose to do that. But like I said, I got a partner, and I told him earlier, I'm like, man, I'm gonna, do this Zoom, and then when I get done, talk to him about it, and then we gonna see which way we gonna go with this.
Okay. So go have that conversation.
So just reach back out to you.
Do whatever you want. I'm here.
You know what I'm saying? Started because I'm like I say, I'm gun ho. I just wanna, explain this to him and all this, and just, you know what I mean? But I'm saying, how do I get back to being able to get involved? I just reach back out to you? Or the same way?
How hard was it to get a hold of me?
Oh, it wasn't at all. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you said that's all I got to do is just reach back out to you? Okay,
you want my personal cell phone? I'll give you my personal cell phone. Seneca, if this is the route you want to go, I'm not hard to find. You just pick up the phone and call me.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to have this conversation with him. If not today, tomorrow when we go out, and probably around lunch, and we're going to talk about this.
Trust me, I'm not going to take your money and go to Tahiti. I don't give a fuck about Tahiti.
Right. Yo, I'm not worried about you. No, I just want to, before we make any decisions as far as taking money out the account or whatever, we have to, we agree.
Do what you. There is no. Oh my God! I'm not gonna call you tomorrow and go, "Hey man, we talked on the phone yesterday. Give me my $2."
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be reaching back out to you. I'm gonna discuss this with my partner, and I think this is something that we should get into. You know what I mean? Because like right now I'm having a little downtime. I'm waiting on some. I got like you said, I got like 5 bids in on kitchens, porches, and I'm waiting for everything to get approved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need more stuff so we can stay.
And I'll tell you this the same way that I tell everybody else. If you go through my 3-day training, if you invest with me and go through the training, and if at the end of the training you go, "Sean, that shit sounds crazy. I want my money back." For any reason, no reason at all, if you want your money back, I will give it to you.
Okay. All right. Well, let me discuss this with my partner, and we're going to reach back out to you for sure, Sean.
I'll be here.
I thank you for Zoom calling with me and giving me this information. You didn't have to take no out of your day to do this. So I will be reaching back out, because why not be governmentally, be registered with the government to get government job, to make money. All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right, I'm here for you.
All right, thanks.
Have a good one, Seneca.
And shame on you. You shouldn't be in business. But the purpose of the business funnel, the purpose of business, if you go down, this is a big problem. You go down the street, just any stranger, you say, what's the purpose of business? What are they going to tell you? To make money, right? That's a big problem. Let me tell you why it's a big problem. The minute you have a conversation with me, or you have a conversation, you go, well, Doug's got a business, I got a business, it's all about money. Well, we're going to have a struggle there because Doug's in business to make money, I'm in business to make. So you got this natural barrier there. I break the barrier because that's not the purpose of business. Now, interestingly, did you have more than one business card?
Multiple.
You got multiple ones? Great. We're going to hand them out because we're going to go back to your business fundamental and give one. Okay, got one. Okay, so we're going to look at the real purpose of business. Okay. Now, go to your business fundamental page. Okay, if that's where we're at. Now, there's